Alright guys, today I am going to show you guys how to draw a hand. So we're gonna be drawing, this is a long tutorial, each one's probably 10 minutes, so the total video would probably be 30 minutes. So we're gonna draw the back of the hands from the beginning to the end. I'm gonna try to break it down to you guys like how I construct it. So basically we're gonna break it down to the back of the palm and to the fingers, and then we're gonna draw the back of the hand first, then the palm hand, and then the side view of the hand, both sides, on the blade end and on the thumbs end. So the first one, so I'm gonna show you I'm gonna explain to you how this easy construction would work. So basically we're gonna break this piece down first on your hand, or on the palm or the back of your hand alone. It has 5 bones inside. So but basically you don't really have to think that far, but you have to think about the logic of it, that how the thumbs are moving. It can move either on the y axis and on the z axis, right? So it can rotate this way, basically in the back, which is, if it's in the front, then it would be able to move forward and touches possible thumbs, so it can rotate both way. First we kind of started as a rectangular shape, but on the pinky side it's going to be slightly lower, right? And on the index finger side it's going to be slightly taller. So but usually the palm of your hands will be, depends on the hand but usually it's not going to be larger, much larger than the width of your wrist. So this wrist, the side of the width of the wrist would kind of almost equal to the top, but since it's angled this way, your finger can expand and extend it, make it wider when you try to extend and grab something open hand, and grab something with your open hand with the finger spreading out. And this part you draw would be the part that you kind of compose with the thumbs. So palms pretty much the same, similar. You can use the same side construction, but it's going to be facing forward to us. Alright, so I hope that's not confusing to you. If you have any question, please post them down on the comment. I will try as much as I can, or try my best to answer your question. If you like the video, please click thumbs up. Just, if you have any requests on the new video, please let me know. Alright, so that's the introduction. Alright, so we just going to start drawing the hand. So this will be the back of the hand. So I'm just gonna start drawing the box that I explained to you earlier. So this will be the back of the hand, basically. And then on the wrist, I'm making the part of the hand kind of tip into the wrist a little bit, and there's bumpy bones on the outer side of your wrist, and now it's on the thumb side of the wrist. You have a little bit of a 45-degree angle in, so you got like because your hands, if you look at your hand from behind, or the back of your hand, it looks a little bigger than your wrist, because you can see the part that's kind of going out to the side, especially on the thumb side. So now I'm drawing the length of the index finger with a little curve on the top. So the curved line kind of indicates where the tips of those fingers are going to go, and it's from the index finger will be the longest, and then down all the way to the pinky. So now I'm trying to I'm eyeballing it for the width of the fingers. So but on each finger you should have some space, because there are space in between bones. So if you close all your fingers and stick it, make it right next to each other, you can still see some hole right in between those, the bottom of your fingers, right in it. You can see the hole through if you show it up to the light, right? So there are some space in that. And now I'm drawing the thumbs, and those triangular shape that extended to your thumb side from the palm will be that space or the base for your thumbs to show up. And the height of your thumbs should be just a little bit over the base of your index fingers. So, alright, now I'm lowering the opacity. Did I? I'm not sure. But if you draw it too thick, you should lower your opacity a little bit. So this tutorial doesn't mean to be for the digital artist only. You can use it. This tutorial is basically a foundation of drawing hands. So you can basically draw it on iPad or pencil and paper, or pen and paper. It doesn't matter. So, all right. Now you're gonna notice that the fingers, all the fingers are a little. The tip of the finger is facing to, or the tip of the finger is pointing towards the side of the index finger a little bit. So as you can see, it's bending toward the left side of the screen, because if you're trying to close down your hand from your pinky, then your pinky is kind of, if you put your index finger in the middle, your pinky kind of, the pinky on the palm side tend to face toward the inside a little bit, or it's bending toward the index finger a little bit, if you know what I mean. So it's not totally straight, unless you force it to go straight. But naturally, it's gonna curve. It's gonna make a curve on the palm side a little bit, so all your fingers are facing, basically your pinky finger is gonna try to facing to your thumb, to the natural movement or the natural pose of your hands. And now I'm trying to get all these width of the fingers and the palm. So if you follow the instruction correctly, then you will get pretty close to what I have here. But a lot of time, if you notice, there are slightly subtlety in the certain way that people draw. The longer you draw, you can see a more subtlety. The more experienced drawer, you can have like the subtlety of from how the line would curve in, make a convex and concave line, right? So you're gonna have to try to notice that from the experienced drawer or whoever that you model after, right? The book that I would recommend for drawing hands or anything is probably Andrew Loomis and George Bridgman. But this is just the start of the basic of the hand drawing. And usually on the fingers, you see those two, the second curved line that below the first line that I have. Those are sort of the guideline or the construction line. I'm trying to split it in half, but it's not actually half. It's actually the base part of the finger will be shorter than the tip part of the fingers, right? Because you got two sections of the bone from that second line down. So the top part would be a little bit longer, maybe like 2/3 and 1/3. Well, no, a little less, just almost half. And now I'm trying to get the knuckle. So you have to be able to kind of draw a lighter or thinner line to indicate those bone from the back of your hands, basically. And now I'm trying to get all the knuckle detail. Just trying to get it to look much like hand as much as possible. So, but if you want to do a stylized, you can, use the same thing. You can have a thicker tip of the finger, or for the female, could have used a thinner tip of the fingers. So now I'm trying to get the nails to look right. I haven't drawn hand in a while, so the nails probably about, it depends on the person, I guess, but usually it's about halfway to the last section of your finger bones. And I'm trying to, so your fingertips, usually I like it, you can draw it round, it depends on the preference, right? But I like it to have that kind of angular shape a little bit. So I draw kind of a angular line, and then straight line on the cut, to straight line on the far end or the tip end of the tip of the fingers, and then another straight line, so that it would get a really nice chisel shape. And I tend to use the curved shape along with the straight shape. I don't usually draw them all curved, so I like to mix and match them, so it got that tension on the line drawn. So if you use all the curve, usually you won't be able to get the tension that you need to convey what's. As you can see, from the perspective of by adding the nail onto the fingertip, you can see that it's kind of rotate outward a little to indicate that the palm side of the finger is facing a little bit to the left side by using that rotation of that nail to indicate the three-dimensional space. So you can, it's basically kind of when you're using a contour line or a slight, like what I'm talking about when I was talking about subtlety earlier, this is part of the subtlety, like you rotate or you move it a little bit in the Z space. And I'm still trying to fix it, trying to get it pretty much as fast as I can and efficient. So you can see the arrow, those kind of curving onto the other side. Alright, so it's almost done for the back of your hand. Just a little bit more. So basically that's the back of the hand. And if you have any questions, please post them down below. If you have any comment or you just want to say hi, and I would really much appreciate if you click the thumbs up button or the like. That would be cool, and that would be pretty good for the algorithm of this video. So, and you can share to your Twitter, Facebook, whatever, please. And now I'm trying to get these. If you look at your hand, there'll be from the back, there'll be a line coming through from the base of your finger, and you see another line behind it, which is a horizontal line. The vertical line will come in the front, overlapping with the horizontal line that's curved. So as you can see that I drew over there on the base of the fingers. And I'm trying to get, I'm not trying to do all this wrinkle on the knuckle because that's gonna get too much of the unnecessary detail on the finger, which some people can do it nicely, but that depends on how you like your drawing to be. I usually like my drawing clean. I don't like to add a lot of stuff on there because I try to draw and get a point across really quick and try to get less width. Like I'm trying to show or explain with less line as possible. So most of my line are suggestive, just like the way I paint. I just paint suggestively. I don't usually put all the details in. So you have to be selective about where you want to put the line. It's like I don't draw the whole nail. I can just draw the line, maybe a vertical line a little bit of curve on the horizontal, and just leave the rest for them to connect the pieces. Like sometimes you see the drawing that's kind of unfinished, but your brain register and finish it by itself. So that's what we kind of call less is more. So but that's also depends on what kind of stuff and how much detail you want to go with it. So it depends on your preference basically. But this is how I like to start drawing hand. And I'm trying to add a little knuckle onto the pinky. Alright, so now we have the back of the hands. And next we are going to move to the palm of the hand. And we are going to basically using the same construction. Alright, for the palm side of the hand, so we just gonna turn this one off, but we can use part of the construction for the palm. So I'm just gonna copy this and put on this different folder. But if you use pencil and paper, you probably have to redraw on the box from the beginning. But for the reason I do this is for the efficiency, and I can make it faster. And usually whatever I can sort of take advantage of in Photoshop, I would do it. And that's gonna increase your efficiency in getting your job done faster. But you know, a lot of time if you are practicing, the more you draw, you're gonna get better. You can repeat it, please do it. So I'm just doing this for the efficiency and make it faster. So once you draw the construction line with those weight indication and those screen indication, then you can come and start doing the palm side. So you gotta kind of flip it also, right? So your palm is going to be on the right side of the screen now. And now your line on the thumb side is going to go inside the palm a little bit. Because you can see those muscles structured on your palm. On the back of your hand, usually there are tiny little muscle, and mostly it's going to be tendons and bones. But on your palm side, it's going to have those muscle fiber and muscle tissues. And usually I'll indicate the palm side of the fingertips or the finger pad, right? And then now is instead of going away from the screen, is coming, your fingertips is coming toward the screen or toward us. So you can have to try to visualize that, because naturally your finger will curve forward when you're facing the palm side. And now all these ring fingers and the pinky fingers gonna curve, you know, toward, well, it usually will curve toward the thumb side. So naturally, it doesn't, your hand usually doesn't go into the straight line. If you let it kind of hang naturally, it will kind of curve by itself. And they're curving toward each other, especially if the thumb will curve toward the pinky, and the pinky will kind of facing toward the thumbs. So you really notice, try to observe yourself. And basically don't forget the gap in between the fingers. So all your fingers, all the skin on your fingers, skin fold, they're not close, especially on the base of your finger. You have some gap in between the fingers. And now I'm kind of get a little bored with the same pose. Since I'm going to draw it again, why draw the same thing? So I'm just going to extend the ring finger and the pinky finger out slightly, just to kill the boredom. So I'm changing the pose a little bit. And hands is one of those things that can be very expressive, and it is kind of like the face, but different. Hands, in my opinion, are a lot harder. It can take many shapes. Your face can take like, expression and the movement in the face. But I guess because we pay a lot more attention to the face rather than the hand. But the hands, you don't want to mess it up because it's going to cost your drawing. You want to be able to nail them, or at least most of the time when I do it pretty suggestively with less detail, but still it will maintain. I'm trying to maintain basically the correct form and the correct proportion, and that's important. Proportion is a lot more important than detail. So you can get those proportion right, then the rest is going to be pretty easy. But if your proportion or the size of something is wrong in the beginning, it doesn't matter how much detail you put in it, it's just not going to look right. So please pay attention to the proportion. Those are the first thing on your checklist when you draw. Proportion mean the width, the length, and the comparative size of each object in between, the index finger in comparison to the thumbs, and the position of the thumbs, and the distance between the fingers, and the size of the thumbs in comparison to the wrist. Those are proportions, right? So now I'm trying to correct my thumbs because look a little weird, especially on the base. The base of the thumbs still kind of look a little too large. Maybe it's missing some bones that coming out, or still a little too high from the wrist. And it's a little further out than it need to be. So I'm gonna extend the side of the wrist out a little bit so it would kind of go there. But and now I'm gonna draw these muscle pad. I'm not sure what it's called. That pad of muscle below or right next to the base of your thumbs. And now on the other side, which also have the pad on the blade side of your thumbs part, or the pinky side. And I'm using 2 layers because the first one I'm just drawing it lightly, and eventually I get a little annoyed, so I just merge it and I use erasers instead, because then I need to flip back and forth, and it's a little inconvenient. Alright, so now we basically got the base, but the finger, I'm not sure if it's kind of a little too higher up. And just look at your palm and see where the creases are, and try to mimic that. And move your palms around when you draw it. So the best way to study is basically, look in the mirror and try to draw your own hands. Reference are good, but they are not as good as let's just say when you draw a figure. Life drawing is still the best bet for me and for a lot of people, and for most of our artists, I guess, rather than just a mere photograph, because you can see the things actually cast a shadow, how the skin or the muscle are moving as they pose. And if you use your hands in the beginning, it might be hard because you're not used to trying to translate the reality or the real object into the line. It's probably, in a lot of people's mind, from the photographs, a lot easier to translate because you see things in 2-dimensional, and you're just translating 2D object into a 2D form. But you will be able to gain a lot more if you can translate the 3D space onto the 2D object, because you can also push it further to try to suggest it as a 2D, suggest a 3-dimensional space in the 2D space, if you know what I mean. So all those things are important, like a little rotation of the fingers, and when your finger bent a little bit, right? So you can actually see it bend, but in the photograph, you kind of know that it bent, but you don't actually see how it bent, and you might not know the subtlety of how it actually bent. So now I'm trying to bend the ring fingers. I'm not sure when I speak off the top, not really off the topic, within the topic, but I'm not explaining what I'm doing. I'm not sure if that helps at all. But sometimes some people can just kind of look at how I draw and just guess what I'm doing there. And if I explain, okay, draw this line, draw this line, draw this line, it might not be helpful in terms of trying to get you to understand and to be intuitively trying to guide you how you would learn more by observing the real world, or how to get how do you say it, get the actual knowledge from what I'm actually thinking when I'm drawing. You know what I mean? So rather I would explain my thought from time to time. Okay, now I'm adding the crease in between the finger, because on the back of your finger it has those kind of thumb crease that I don't usually draw it in as much, but on the palms I see it as more important, because those are suggesting the bending or the coming forward. But that's just my thought. And a lot of time when I see the people who draw that I like Alphonse Mucha drawing and Andrew Loomis drawing. Those are the old school. And for the sketch, they usually put the line onto the palm, but not necessarily on the back of the hand. So I kind of get that from those guys, I guess. And a lot of time the finger crease on the palm are a little more visible, but when you look at the back of your hand, sometimes when the finger are bending, those creases are not as visible, so you don't usually see them as often. But on the palm of your hand, doesn't matter if you extend the finger, stretch it, right? You can still see the crease, or when you bend it, you can even see more crease. So I guess that's how I see them. It doesn't, like on the front or on the palm side, it doesn't disappear. That's what I'm saying. But on the back of the hand, sometimes when you stretch it enough, or when you bend the finger, or when you bend the knuckle, those creases can disappear and they become smoother, so the line almost become invisible. So now you get the front of the hand, and now I'm trying to fix all those misproportion, like on this part here. Got to add some bones, and I can keep drawing, keep fixing until it become to get the correct proportion. But most drawing, I would say 80 to 90% of the time, if you really spot it, if you really observe, there are something that's not right about the drawing. There's no such perfect drawing, but you can convince people that it is correct. If you know what I mean. If it's correct 90% of it, then it should be correct. But if you really want to pick nitpicking, and hey, that's a little too thick, that's a little too thin, then you can always find imperfection. But I'm not trying to say don't make it as good as you can. Try to spot all the mistake that you make, and if you can't spot it, then that's fine. If that's your limit, or if you can't see it sometime, then you can't help it because you missed it, right? But try to do your best to get the proportion right, and try to do your best to kind of look at the subject, and try to make no mistake in terms of proportion, because those are the first thing on the list that you should be aware of, and make your best to make it good. Okay, here's the last part of the video. We are going to draw the side view, so both sides, the profile view of the hand. So there's going to be on the thumb side and the pinky side. So first of all, you are going to have to be able to visualize. So in the first beginning part of this video, we just I explain the construction line into the 2D form, but it's actually, if you rotate it a little bit to the side view, these are all three-dimensional space. So the main part, or the first rectangular shape that I drew, they are actually a box. So try to make the box in that shape, and I'm going to draw on the thumb side facing forward. So those are the hand part on the back side of the hand, since I'm drawing the thumbs forward, or wait, the palm side. It just on the flip side, don't get confused. And then the triangular shape on the thumb side is actually another box shape. Just make 3 planes, right? You don't have to make a correct perspective, but just for your own understanding, you just have to be able to visualize it into 3-dimensional. And each box will have 3 planes because they're 3-dimensional. So tells you there. So now I'm drawing index finger, middle fingers, and they're all gonna, each section of them gonna get shorter and shorter, right? So now the box, first section of the finger, and then the second, and usually on the palm and the back side of the finger are going to be thicker than the profile side, and that's make it a lot easier for you when you go into the painting phase. Now the second section is going to be shorter, and the tip section is going to be the shortest. The tip section, I make it a sort of like taper all the way to the end. You could have a little cut on the tip, so you give it some, like a taper box. Now the ring fingers, and each section from the middle finger down. Usually your middle finger might be the longest. Depends. I've seen some people who has the index finger a little longer, and some of the people have index finger and middle fingers are about the same. But the ring finger and the pinky finger are usually shorter in comparison to the index and the middle fingers. And now the thumbs. And the thumbs are pretty cool because they can move both axes. They can move on the x-axis and the z-axis. And they can close, those sections from the triangular part of the box can rotate forward, right? So I'm going to flip it so it looks like it rotating from that hand sample that I show. It make a lot more sense this way, I guess. But I'm not sure why I start drawing that way in the beginning. So now I'm drawing the forearm. So the forearm, the front of your forearm and the back of your forearm are wider than the profile or the side of your forearm because there are 2 bones. So you see both bone on the foreside and you see it on the back side. But on the side view of the forearm, you can only see 1 bone because one is overlapping the other, and it's a lot thinner when you look at the forearm and the hand on the side view. Alright. So I guess that's pretty much it on what I want to explain to you. Then maybe I'm just going to do a really quick demo because I'm running out of time here. Just going to do some sketchy line for the side view. It's not going to be as pretty, and I'm not going to take that much time, but I'm probably going to do a few since I have to do... Oh, also, I want to explain something. The box in the middle, or the hand box, they're not rigid. It's not rigid. So you can close them together because remember, inside the box, or that box itself in the middle, it has 4 bones that kind of you can kind of move it and curving it in, so it makes your hands a lot more how do you say, flexible, so the box are not rigid. It's not rigid. So now I'm just going to draw the side view of the hands. Just going to use the same proportion. I'm not going to start with the box. I'm just going to start sketching basically, and that's how, well, once you get pretty comfortable with the box construction, then you should kind of just wing it and start sketching freehand. Once you kind of know what proportion it should be and how long on the finger should be. So now you can see the first line I drew is basically the thumb side, the line that's going to create the thumbs. So now you can see the thumbs and coming in front of us, and the back side will be the back of the hand. That's the base of your index fingers, and your index finger is going to come in right out of it. So you can see I usually make the finger into two sections, the base section, and those two bones on the tip of the fingers, I usually try to combine them into one, because it makes it a lot easier to do. And usually you don't see them, you see them curved, you don't see them kind of bent as much as the base part and the second section, right? So the base part of your finger, that bone that coming from the base, and the second section, they bend a lot more than the tip part of your fingers. I hope you know what I'm talking about. All right, now you're gonna see a little bit of the knuckle because it's in perspective a little bit, and I'm just gonna draw a really quick wrist. So these are not gonna be pretty, but it will get you an idea of how I start drawing those hands. And like I said, you don't have to always use a box. You can, once you know the proportion, you can just start going with it. But you have to be able to visualize in your head, and visualization is very important when you start drawing things from your imagination. And it's going to be very useful when you see things in a world, you try to capture those pictures into your head. And sometimes when that's not enough, you have to be able to make a rational arrangement, or break things down into a mechanical terms, or like what I drawn before, those are boxes shape, right? So once you break it down to those box shape, and when you arrange those boxes in the beginning, you might not be able to and put them into the use right off the bat. You might want to kind of draw the box first to get it into the paper before you start drawing the line over it, to get those correct proportion and correct shape, right? But eventually, once you do those things repeatedly many times, then you can just throw those box or those construction line away and start drawing with just kind of free-handed, or just use some fewer lines to indicate where the certain landmark or the certain mark would be, so that it would connect you from a point A to point B without using too many information, right? Because all those information you already analyze it or calculate in your head. So when you put the line onto the paper, you can just nail it. And most of the time, for the most part, if it's hopefully correct, then you will have to come back and check, and the less correction you have to do, if that makes any sense. Because the more you draw, the better you get, and the less mistake you make. And there'll be, once you get those sketch line in place, then you're gonna come and review it, and you're gonna kind of check if there are any mistake on that drawing. And that's probably the final part of your when you're trying to finalize your drawing. So now I'm drawing it in a slightly different angle. You're gonna see the finger bent a little more in the middle fingers, and you're gonna see the knuckle, so you're gonna see the back of the hand a little more. So I kind of visualize it in my head before I start kind of drawing. And sometimes it's really hard. If some of the angle are too hard, then you might want to make more effort by putting more of the construction line onto the paper. But if some of the angle and the pose are easy, then you might not have to do much. You can just visualize it beforehand, and then you put them onto the paper with just a fewer stroke. And the more you do, the more efficient you get. And the more you draw, the better and faster you'll be. There is no shortcut. There's just a lot of practice. Some people, if they understand the foundation a little bit more, they might be able to, do not less practice, but they might be able to progress faster. But at some point, when you progress, you might hit the ceiling, right? Don't give up. Eventually, you will get past that ceiling. Once you get the epiphany of like, oh, so that's how it goes. And once you notice that certain obstacle that you have, and you think, you might not be able to get past that. You pound through it hard enough, you will be able to get through it. So now I'm drawing the palm side with the pinky facing forward. Really quick there. I know it's not a finished drawing, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to convey here. So like I said, these are all the sketch line. Then if I want to finalize it, I'm going to have to go back and refine the drawing and put more lines onto it and erase some of the line. And that's kind of like a review process, right? All right, guys. I guess we are going to stop here. I'm going to have to go. So if you have any questions, please post them down in the comment below. And please check out my premium tutorial, digital painting for ultimate digital painting guide for the beginner. And I still do have some drawing tutorial that are long form. So check them out on Gumroad/Xia Taptara or on QBrush/Xia Taptara. And all right, I guess that's pretty much it. Have a good day, guys. And all the tools and the links down below if you want to check it out, all the tools I use for my artistic process. All right, goodbye.